His last words in Mark 15 are from the first line of Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Have you ever felt that? The absence of God? I know I have. It was on Labor Day weekend 17 years ago today that after 4 years of trying to conceive a child, I finally was 2 months pregnant. Only I got home from church and discovered I was having a miscarriage. My despair on that Sunday was so deep that I had no words I was willing to share with God. I felt like I was falling through the vast void of space, and the entire universe was laughing at me. What a fool I was. I just invested good money and 4 years of my life in seminary, when obviously God had no regard for me. If something unfair like this could be happening, in fact, I was willing to consider that life, as my friends would have told me, was just random and meaningless. My doctor suggested I go to bed and pray for a miracle, which just ticked me off. I mean, he was a Buddhist. And I'll tell you something, I did not pray that day a very nice prayer. I was so mad I would not give God, if God indeed existed, the benefit of hearing my voice. I would not beg like a dog. Instead, I demanded an answer. My prayer was just, why? Why? What did I ever do to you? And that night I had a dream that I've never before shared from the pulpit, but I think it's worth hearing because it's why I'm still here, why I went ahead to graduate and become a pastor after all. It went like this. John and I were shopping for our car in an outdoor lot, lots of cars in 2 long rows. You know how parking lots will have, like at ShopRite. They're lined up like this, kind of like teeth on a zipper. One row was blue cars, the other was all red cars. And I was test driving a red car. I was needing to back out of the parking space. Only John had just completed a test drive in a blue car that was parked like this, right behind me. And I didn't think I really had enough room. But the car salesman, who was like out of a cartoon, of a used car salesman, slick, shiny suits, greasy hair, smell of cigars, dishonest to the core, I could tell. But he ensured me that I could back out safely. And I'm just vain enough about my parking ability that I thought I was probably right, so I followed the directions and came on back. But the brakes failed on the car when I tried to stop, and I crashed into the driver's side door of the car. I jumped out. John, are you okay? What's wrong? What are you going to do? And can you believe it? The car salesman lights into me, starts saying that, blaming me. It was all my fault. Calling me a stupid woman driver, accusing me of not listening to his instructions. And on top of everything, he told us, you broke it. You bought it. And he started marching back up this hill up to the little office to write up a sales receipt. And he said if we didn't fork out the money for both cars, both of which was damaged, he was going to call the cops. I was livid. I was marching behind him. I was yelling. I was going, it was not my fault. It was not my fault. It was your fault. You put me in that car. You gave me those directions. You said that it was okay, and it was not okay. And he stopped suddenly, and he turned around, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, you were not at fault? Is that what you're telling me? I said, yes. He gave me a big smile. He said, good. You got it. And he gave me a great, big, huge hug. "Did that answer your question, Bryn?" he said. I woke up laughing. I mean, Moses gets to see God in a burning bush, and I had to see God in a used car lot. But I have to say I was still really skeptical about this. I mean, I hiked all over Europe with a 40-pound backpack that summer when I got pregnant. I was sure I had done something wrong. So when I got to the doctor, I had to have a real explanation, the scientific explanation. So I asked her the same question I had asked God. Why did this happen to me? I've been doing all the right things. Well, she says, preparing to explain to a layperson something that was too complicated for me, what she says is, what happens is that you have to imagine 2 rows of chromosomes, right? The man's on one side, the woman's on the other. They line up. They're supposed to kind of fit together like a zipper. But sometimes one line of chromosomes, your husband's for instance, is turned a little bit. And when they try to combine, they just kind of crash into each other. Who knew God understood genetics? Who knew that God could give a simple answer to a simple question? And it was exactly 3 months after that I conceived my son Jacob. And I was leading an Advent prayer class for women in my church who had grief issues over the loss of a child or infertility, when we just kind of couldn't stand going to another Christmas pageant and watching other people's darling children. And we were praying many of these psalms, like 123. As the eyes of servants look to the hand of their master, as the eyes of a maid to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God until he has mercy on us. Have mercy on us, O Lord. Have mercy. People of faith, we can cry out to God in our pain. And even in our disbelief, we can demand help. We can demand answers. And our Bible reminds us that no matter how distant we feel from God, or how unworthy or how unclean we are, we may not get exactly what we want in our prayers, but we will be heard. And we will always be welcome at our Master's table. Thanks be to God for this good news. Amen.